This might look like a small hill, but it's not. I'm standing on top of millions of tons of trash on what was once a landfill. Most of what you throw away ends up in a place like this, where it's likely to stay buried for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Landfills have basically been banned here in Germany. But there are still tens of thousands of them across the world. In this video, let's find out if we can use 3D printing to upcycle some of the stuff that would usually be thrown away. Let's look at what you can upcycle using a 3D printer. The vast majority of designs are used for upcycling energy drink cans. Everything from bird feeders, planters, organizers, to wind stations, paint rollers, and even rockets and batteries. Here are a few that I found interesting and decided to print them. The next popular trash to upcycle are all the various glass jars. I really liked this greenhouse idea. You'll also find a few juicers, although using 3D printed parts with food is probably not the best idea. A better alternative is to convert empty jars into drinking mugs. Even better, you can reuse the lid and store your drink for later. Coffee is actually responsible for one of the biggest wastes of modern times. Coffee pods. Last year, there were 56 billion of them produced. That's enough to stack them up to the moon and back again. And back to the moon and back for the second time. And you'd still have enough left to circle the Earth more than 3 times over. That's just in 1 year alone, and majority of them end up in a landfill. Why is that? If you throw this away, it ends up on a landfill because recycling plants can't be bothered to take it apart. However, if you remove the coffee yourself and separate it from the plastic, it should end up being recycled. This is where 3D printers come in play. You can print something like this that lets you easily open a pod and remove the coffee grounds. find models for every major brand in the links below. It only takes you a few seconds to do it, but can have a huge impact on the environment. The final major source of waste are plastic bottles. If you thought coffee pots were bad, imagine this. There are 1 million plastic bottles produced every minute, and only about 10% of them end up being recycled. It hardly needs to be said that you should be using reusable containers in the first place. But let's look at a few options for upcycling plastic bottles. Finally, let's look at the biggest waste when it comes to 3D printing itself: empty spool rolls. Each empty roll is usually a quarter of the entire weight, and there's hardly anything you can do with it. Sure, some people have tried reusing them by designing organizers like this, but they don't make much sense. By the time you print enough of them to reuse one empty spool, you already wasted a third of filament, so what's the point? The best way to save empty rolls is by not using them in the first place. This is the idea behind the Master Spool project. You buy just the refills and print a special spool that you can then keep reusing. Plus, the refills are usually a bit cheaper. Another great idea is to recycle your fill prints and create new filament from them. Stefan from CNC Kitchen did an entire video about it, check it out. There are, of course, more models out there, but I've covered most of the basic ideas. In the end, I have mixed feelings about it, but only because I live in Germany, where just about everything gets recycled. Every store here has a machine where you can return empty cans and bottles and get some money back. So at the end of the day, there's simply not much left here for you to upcycle. However, I've traveled enough to know that this is hardly the case everywhere. If you live in a place where recycling isn't a big deal, you should definitely try and do what you can. Of course, keep in mind that you can upcycle without relying on a 3D printer, so be sure to check out some of the links below for more ideas. So, what do you think? Is upcycling with a 3D printer just a gimmick, or is it actually useful? If you've enjoyed this video, here are 2 more that you might find interesting. Leave a comment, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.